Srimad Bhagavatam, translated with commentaries by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Canto 1, Chapter 7, The Son of Drona Punished. Text 44. It was by Dronacharya's mercy that you learned the military art of throwing arrows and the confidential art of controlling weapons. Purport. Dhanurveda, or military science, was taught by Dronacharya with all its confidential secrets of throwing and controlling by Vedic hymns. Gross military science is dependent on material weapons, but finer than that is the art of throwing the arrows saturated with Vedic hymns, which act more effectively than gross material weapons like machine guns or atomic bombs. The control is by Vedic mantras, or the transcendental science of sound. It is said in the Ramayana that Maharaj Dasarath, the father of Lord Sri Ram, used to control arrows by sound only. He could pierce his target with his arrow by hearing the sound only, without seeing the object. So this is a finer military science than that of the gross material military weapons used nowadays. Arjuna was taught all this, and therefore Draupadi wished that Arjuna feel obliged to Acharya Drona for all these benefits, and in the absence of Dronacharya, his son was the representative. That was the opinion of the good lady Draupadi. It may be argued why Dronacharya, a rigid Brahmin, should be a teacher of military science. But the reply is that a Brahmin should become a teacher, regardless of what his department of knowledge is. A learned Brahmin should become a teacher, a priest, and a recipient of charity. A bona fide Brahmin is authorized to accept such professions. Text 45. He, Dronacharya, is certainly still existing, being represented by his son. His wife Kripi did not undergo a sati with him because she had a son. Purport. The wife of Dronacharya, Kripi, is the sister of Kripacharya. A devoted wife who is, according to revealed scripture, the better half of her husband, is justified to embrace voluntary death along with her husband if she is without issue. But in the case of the wife of Dronacharya, she did not undergo such a trial because she had her son, the representative of her husband. A widow is so called if there is a son of the husband existing. So, in either case, Asvatthama was the representative of Dronacharya, and therefore killing Asvatthama would be like killing Dronacharya. That was the argument of Draupadi against the killing of Asvatthama. Text 46. O most fortunate one, you know the principles of religion. It is not good for you to cause grief to glorious family members who are always respectable and worshipful. Purport. A slight insult for a respectable family is sufficient to invoke grief. Therefore, a cultured man should always be careful in dealing with worshipful family members. Text 47. My Lord, do not make the wife of Dronacharya cry like me. I am aggrieved for the death of my sons. She need not cry constantly like me. Purport. Sympathetic, good lady as she was, Srimati Draupadi did not want to put the wife of Dronacharya in the same position of childlessness, both from the point of motherly feelings as well as from the respectable position held by the wife of Dronacharya. Text 48. If the kingly administrative order, which is unrestricted in sense control, offends the Brahmin order and enrages them, then the fire of that rage burns up the whole body of the royal family and brings grief upon all. Purport. The Brahmin order of society, or the spiritually advanced caste or community, and the members of such highly elevated families were always held in great esteem by the other subordinate castes, namely the administrative kingly order, mercantile order, and the laborers. Text 49. Suta Gosvami said, O Brahmins, King Yudhisthira fully supported the statements of the Queen, which were in accordance with the principles of religion and were justified, glorious, full of mercy and equity, and were without duplicity. Purport. Maharaj Yudhisthira, who was the son of Dharmaraj or Yamaraj, fully supported the words of Queen Draupadi in asking Arjuna to release Asvatthama. One should not tolerate the humiliation of a member of the great family. Arjuna and his family were indebted to the family of Dronacharya because of Arjuna's learning the military science from him. If ingratitude was shown to such a benevolent family, it was not at all justified from the moral standpoint. The wife of Dronacharya, who was the half-body of the great soul, must be treated with compassion, and she should not be put into grief because of her son's death. That is compassion. Such statements by Draupadi are without duplicity, because action should be taken with full knowledge. The feeling of equality was there because Draupadi spoke out of her personal experience. A barren woman cannot understand the grief of a mother. Draupadi was herself a mother, and therefore her calculation of the death of Kripi's grief was quite to the point, and it was glorious because she wanted to show proper respect to a great family. Text 50. The younger brothers of the king, Nakula and Sahadev, and also Satyaki and Arjuna, the personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, son of Devaki, and the ladies and others all unanimously agreed with the king. Text 51. Bhima, however, disagreed with them and recommended killing this culprit who, in an angry mood, had murdered sleeping children for no purpose and for neither his nor his master's interest. Text 52. Chaturbhuja, the four-armed one, or the personality of Godhead, after hearing the words of Bhima, Draupadi, and others, saw the face of his dear friend Arjuna, and he began to speak as if smiling. Purport. Lord Sri Krishna has two arms, and why he is designated as four-armed is explained by Sridhar Swami. Both Bhima and Draupadi held opposite views about killing Asvatthama. Bhima wanted him to be immediately killed, whereas Draupadi wanted to save his life. We can imagine Bhima ready to kill, while Draupadi is obstructing him. And in order to prevent both of them, the Lord discovered another two arms. Originally, the primeval Lord Sri Krishna displays only two arms, but in his Narayan feature he exhibits four. In his Narayan feature, he resides with his devotees in the Vaikuntha planets, while in his original Sri Krishna feature, he resides in the Krishna Loka planet, far, far above the Vaikuntha planets, in the spiritual sky. Therefore, if Sri Krishna is called Chaturbhuja, there is no contradiction. If need be, he can display hundreds of arms, as he exhibited in his Vishvarupa, shown to Arjuna. Therefore, one who can display hundreds and thousands of arms can also display 4, whenever needed. When Arjuna was perplexed about what to do with Asvatthama, Lord Sri Krishna, as very dear friend of Arjuna, voluntarily took up the matter just to make a solution, and he was smiling also. Text 53. The personality of Godhead Sri Krishna said, "A friend of a Brahman is not to be killed, but if he is an aggressor, he must be killed. All these rulings are in the scriptures, and you should act accordingly. You have to fulfill your promise to your wife, and you must also act to the satisfaction of Bhimasena and me." Purport. Arjuna was perplexed because Asvatthama was to be killed, as well as spared, according to different scriptures cited by different persons. As a Brahmabandhu, or a worthless son of a Brahmin, Asvatthama was not to be killed, but he was at the same time an aggressor also. And according to the rulings of Manu, an aggressor, even though he be a Brahmin, what to speak of an unworthy son of a Brahmin, is to be killed. Dronacharya was certainly a Brahmin in the true sense of the term, but because he stood in the battlefield, he was killed. But although Asvatthama was an aggressor, he stood without any fighting weapons. The ruling is that an aggressor, when he is without weapons or chariot, cannot be killed. All these were certainly perplexities. Besides that, Arjuna had to keep the promise he had made before Draupadi just to pacify her. But he also had to satisfy both Bhima and Krishna, who advised killing him. This dilemma was present before Arjuna, and the solution was awarded by Krishna. Text 55. Just then, Arjuna could understand the motive of the Lord by his equivocal orders, and thus, with his sword, he severed both hair and jewel from the head of Asvatthama. Purport. Contradictory orders of different persons are impossible to carry out. Therefore, a compromise was selected by Arjuna by his sharp intelligence, and he separated the jewel from the head of Asvatthama, which was as good as cutting off his head, and yet his life was saved for all practical purposes. Here Asvatthama is indicated as twice born. Certainly he was twice born, but he fell down from his position, and therefore he was properly punished. Text 56. He, Asvatthama, had already lost his bodily luster due to infanticide, and now, moreover, having lost the jewel from his head, he lost even more strength. Thus he was unbound and driven out of the camp. Purport. Thus being insulted, the humiliated Asvatthama was simultaneously killed and not killed by the intelligence of Lord Krishna and Arjuna. Text 57. Cutting the hair from his head, depriving him of his wealth, and driving him from his residence are the prescribed punishments for the relative of a Brahmin. There is no injunction for killing the body. Text 58. Thereafter the sons of Pandu and Draupadi, overwhelmed with grief, performed the proper rituals for the dead bodies of their relatives. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the first canto, 7th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Son of Drona Punished.